You give your maser every month, 10% off the top before anything else. You live below your means. You do not chase cars. You do not chase watches. You drive the same sedan you drove 8 years ago. You keep your savings in the bank because that is what your parents told you and their parents told them. You did the responsible thing. Every rule, every minhag, every quiet Tuesday night decision at the kitchen table. You followed it. And I'm going to show you a number tonight that says the rule book you are following, the minimalist Jewish money playbook you inherited, is missing 3 pages. Not the Meiser page, not the modesty page. Those pages are good. 3 other pages. The ones nobody at your bank, your shul finance committee, or your parents' generation ever ran the math on. Because there is a household in Queens, call her Miriam, who did everything right and is quietly down more than $500,000. And she has no idea. $500,000 on a woman who never bought a luxury bag in her life, who gives more to tzedakah in a year than most people give in a decade. She did not lose it in a scheme. She did not lose it in a market crash. She lost it to the one number the bank on her corner has never once printed on her statement. And by law, they never have to. The number is bigger than you think. And the reason it is hidden is not a conspiracy. It is just how the machine is built. I'm going to walk you through 8 rules the tradition actually teaches. And 3 of them you are following backwards. The math will show which 3. The math always shows. 3 rules, backwards, on the most careful person you know. I am Saul Goldstein. My grandfather sold diamonds on 47th Street. My father sold diamonds on 47th Street. I sold diamonds on 47th Street until I was 31. And then I spent the next 2.5 decades as a senior partner on the street, sitting on the pricing desks and the product committees where the fees you are paying right now got designed. I held wealth in my hand and I moved wealth on a screen. And I got out because the second job taught me what the first job never could, how the machine is built to skim the most careful savers hardest. The people who follow every rule are the people the machine loves most. That is who this video is for. So here is the stake. A household following the traditional Jewish money rules honestly, maaser every year, no debt, cash in the bank, house paid down, is quietly leaving somewhere between $300,000 and $600,000 on the table over 30 years. Not because they were greedy, because they were cautious, and cautious was priced wrong. I am going to run 5 reveals for you. The credit card trap that punishes the person who thought they did not need an emergency fund. The fund fee drag that eats the person who finally does invest but does it wrong. The cash in the bank number, which is the one the whole video is built around. The diversification rule the Talmud wrote 2,000 years ago that the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation codified last century. And the maaser math itself, which is more forgiving than you were taught to fear. If you want the full playbook, every rule, every number, every worked out page, I put it in a book. Link is in the description. If it helps you, it helps you. If it does not, do not buy it. I am not going to bring it up again in this video because I need your attention on the numbers, not on me. The mechanism has a name. It is called net interest margin. Every quarter, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation publishes it in a document called the Quarterly Banking Profile. And for banks in aggregate, it has been running roughly 3 percentage points, give or take. 3 points. That is the spread between what your bank earns on your money and what your bank pays you for your money. It is not illegal. It is not hidden. It is just never spoken out loud at the branch. Here is what that looks like on your statement versus their statement. On your statement, you see a line that says interest earned, and it says something like $46 for the year on $10,000. That is the national average savings rate as of May 2024, 0.46% annual percentage yield. On their statement, that same $10,000 blended into their loan book earned them somewhere around $300 to $400 in net spread. Same $10,000, same year. Meet Miriam, 58, bookkeeper in Queens, 3 grown kids, gives maaser every single month without fail. She has $200,000 in a plain savings account because her mother, may she rest in peace, told her banks are safer than the market. Miriam is not wrong about safety. Miriam is wrong about who the safety is for. The safety is real. The safety is theirs. Here's what staying inside that rule book costs Miriam over 30 years. And I want you to sit with this because it is not a small number and it is not an angry number. It is just arithmetic. $200,000 sitting in a 0.46% account in a world where inflation runs about 3% a year is losing purchasing power at roughly 2.5% every single year. Compound that over 3 decades. The $200,000 Miriam thinks she is protecting is going to buy her what 94,000 of today's dollars buy. She did not lose money on paper. She lost money on the shelf every year, quietly, without a statement. And the exact same 200,000 in a boring, diversified portfolio earning 4% above inflation over the same 30 years would have grown to more than 600,000 of today's dollars. Same person, same discipline, same maaser, different account. That is the gap. That is the number I promised you at the top. Same woman, same rules, $500,000 delta. The question is not, am I being responsible with my money? Miriam is being responsible. The question is, whose definition of safe am I using? Because the bank has one definition of safe, which is safe for the bank. And the tradition has another definition of safe, which is safe for the family. Those two words used to line up. Now at 0.46%, they do not. Not anymore. And once you see the gap, you cannot unsee it. That is the whole rest of this video. Miriam's first rule, the one her father taught her, was if you live modestly, you do not need to hold big cash reserves. Emergency funds are for people who overspend. Miriam does not overspend. Miriam's husband loses his job in month 1. Their essential monthly spending, rent, food, utilities, health insurance, is $4,000. 4 months without his paycheck is $16,000 of forced spending. Miriam does not want to touch her long-term savings, so she does what 40% of Americans do in that situation. She reaches for the credit card. Average annual percentage rate on cards assessed interest in 2023 was 22.77%, per the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau Credit Card Market Report. $16,000, 22% annual percentage rate, paid off over 36 months. Monthly payment works out to about $601. 601 times 36 months is $21,636 total. Subtract the $16,000 she borrowed, $5,636 in interest on a woman who has never bought a luxury item in her life. Miriam's father was not wrong about modesty. He was wrong about what modesty protects you from. Modesty protects you from wanting too much. It does not protect you from the electric company still needing to be paid in April. Miriam's silent cost so far, $5,600. That is the fee you can see because it prints on her statement in red ink. The next one is worse, and it never prints anywhere. Never prints anywhere. So Miriam listens to her son. She finally opens a brokerage account. She sits down with a nice advisor, a mensch, and he puts her in a diversified mutual fund portfolio. She is investing now. She is fine, right? Here's what the paperwork says, and I want you to picture the exact document. The prospectus lists an expense ratio of 0.65% on the actively managed funds she owns. The asset-weighted average for mutual funds is 0.37%, but active funds like Miriam's average around 0.65. On top of that, the advisor charges 1% of assets under management per year. Total drag, 1.65% per year. Every year, on everything, forever. Take $100,000 invested at a 7% nominal return, 30 years. No fees. 100,000 times 1.07 to the 30th equals about $761,000. Now apply the fees. Net return becomes 5.35%. 100,000 times 1.0535 to the 30th equals about $476,000. Gap, $285,000 gone to fees on a single $100,000. Scale it down from Miriam's smaller balance and stretch the horizon, and her personal fee drag over 3 decades is about $130,000. The advisor is not a crook. The fund is not a scam. Every fee is disclosed. Every fee is legal. Every fee is on page 47 of a document nobody reads. That is not Miriam's failing. That is the design. Miriam's silent cost, $5,600 plus $130,000, roughly $136,000. And that is still not the big one. The big one is the money she thought she was keeping safest of all, the cash. The cash was the wound. Miriam's biggest pile, the $200,000 her mother told her never to move, is in a plain savings account. Because banks do not lose your money. Because you can see it. Because that is what a responsible woman in her 50s does. The national average savings account rate is 0.46% annual percentage yield. That is 46 cents on every $100 per year. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve funds rate at that same moment was sitting at 5.25 to 5.5%. The bank was getting 5.25. The bank was giving Miriam 46 cents. The net interest margin was running around 3%. That 3% is the business. The 4 cents is the bait. Now compound it. $200,000 at 0.46% nominal minus 3% inflation equals a real return of negative 2.54%. Every year, Miriam's dollars buy 2.5% less than they did the year before. 30 years of that, 200,000 times 0.9746 to the 30th. That factor is about 0.47. 200,000 times 0.47 equals $94,000 of purchasing power. She started with 200. She ends with the equivalent of 94. She lost, in today's dollars, $106,000 just by holding still. Miriam did not lose the money. Miriam gave the money. Slowly, quietly, 0.1% at a time, to a machine designed to accept it from the most careful, most responsible, most trusting savers in the country. It is not her fault. It was priced before she walked in. Miriam's silent cost climbs. But the full compounding number is bigger, coming up, because losing on the cash is only half of it. The other half is what that same cash could have become in the boring alternative. Not exotic, not risky, boring. New character. Yaakov, 42, self-employed contractor, 3 kids, house paid off, worth $800,000 on the internet listing sites, $10,000 liquid in the bank. He tells his wife, "We are fine. The house is the asset." Yaakov's mother-in-law needs $40,000 for a medical thing not covered by insurance. Yaakov has $10,000 liquid. He is not selling the house. He is not doing a home equity line of credit in 3 weeks. He puts $30,000 on cards and takes a personal loan for 10. Cards at 22, personal loan at 15. Blended over 5 years, he pays somewhere north of $26,000 in interest on a man whose net worth on paper is over $800,000. $40,000 at a blended 20% annual percentage rate, 60 months. Monthly payment about $1,112 times 60 months equals $66,720. Subtract the $40,000 borrowed, $26,720 in interest. Now here is the Talmudic answer, 2,000 years old and still correct. A third in land, a third in business, a third in cash. Yaakov had 3/3 in land, 0/3 in cash. The Gemara priced this risk before the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation existed. He just was not reading that page. Yaakov did not screw up because he paid off his house. Paying off the house is a beautiful thing. Yaakov screwed up because paying off the house was the entire plan. There was no page 2. The tradition has a page 2. Land, business, cash, all 3. So back to Miriam, because we still have not run the big number. The one all of this has been leading to. Sit tight, the big one, coming. Miriam's 5th rule, and this one is the tenderest. She gives maaser every month, 10%, off the top, non-negotiable. And because of that, she has always believed there is no room left to also be building serious savings. That belief is wrong. Household income, $90,000 a year. Maaser, $9,000, gone, sacred. What is left after taxes? Roughly $60,000 of take-home. Miriam has never thought of herself as having room to invest. But here is the number, $375 a month, $4,500 a year, 5% of her gross. Not instead of the maaser, on top of it. That is the number that changes her family's next 30 years. $375 a month, invested at a 5% real return over 360 months. The future value formula. Monthly contribution times bracket 1 plus 0.004167 to the 360th power minus 1 divided by 0.004167. That bracket works out to about 832. 375 times 832 equals about $312,000 in today's purchasing power. Push the real return to 5.5%, you get closer to $360,000. Somewhere in that band, $312,000 to $360,000 real dollars on a woman who thought she had zero room. Maaser was never the problem. Maaser was doing what Maaser is supposed to do. The problem was the story around Maaser. The story that said, because you gave, you cannot also build. The halacha never said that. The story did. Now we have all the pieces. The cash trap, the fee trap, the modesty trap. Time to run the number, the full one, all pieces on the table. Everything so far. The credit card interest Miriam paid because she did not have an emergency fund. The fee drag on the mutual funds. The purchasing power that quietly evaporated on the 200,000 in the bank. Every single one of those was a separate loss, but you do not feel any of them individually because none of them ever print on one statement together. That is what the machine counts on. Nobody adds them up. We are going to add them up right now. Miriam, one household, 30 years, following every rule she was taught. Here is the number the bank has never once put in front of her. The number the tradition would have wanted her to see. The number I said was coming at the top of this video. Cash erosion. 200,000 at 0.46% minus 3% inflation, 30 years. Purchasing power ending value, $94,000. Same 200,000 at 4% real, boring diversified portfolio, 30 years. Ending value, $648,600. Subtract 648,600 minus 94,000. $554,600. 554,000 on one woman, on one account, on one belief that the bank is safe. Add the fee drag from the mutual fund years, $130,000 roughly. Add the credit card interest from the missing emergency fund, $5,600. Add the compounded gap from the Maasa story. She could have added $312,000 on top of everything else with $375 a month. She never did. Add half of that as opportunity cost. Conservatively, $156,000 total silent cost to Miriam over 30 years, somewhere between $800,000 and just over $900,000 of today's dollars, almost $1 million on a woman who never bought a luxury item in her life, who gave more to tzedakah in a year than her neighbors gave in 5, who followed every rule she was ever taught. The rules were not wrong. The rules were incomplete. 3 pages were missing, and the missing pages were worth almost $1 million. That is the number the branch on her corner will never run for her. That is the number that says cash was never king. That is the number that says the minimalist Jewish rulebook, as most people practice it today, is running with 3 pages torn out. Now the good news, because I do not leave you standing in that room. Every one of these 3 missing pages is fixable in an afternoon. 1. Build a 6-month emergency fund in a high-yield savings account paying 4% or better, so a job loss never touches your long-term money. 2. Move the long-term $200,000 out of the 0.46 bank accounts and into a boring, low-cost, diversified portfolio. Total market index fund. Expense ratio under 0.1. Not exotic, boring. 3. Start the $375 a month on top of your maaser, not instead of it. 3 moves, 1 afternoon. Most of that near $1 million gap is not gone. It is just waiting for the right 3 signatures. 3 signatures, not a scheme, not a hustle, just the pages. I have to be straight with you. This video will not make you rich. Nobody's video will make you rich. And anyone who tells you 3 moves in an afternoon guarantees you $1 million in 30 years is selling you narishkeit, because markets do not guarantee anything and life does not guarantee anything. What this video does is stop you from silently handing $5, $10, $20,000 a year to a machine that was designed to accept it from you. And here is the part I need you to hear. You did not screw up. You gave your maaser. You paid your bills on time. You did not buy the car you could not afford. You lived below your means. Every single one of those was correct. The tradition got those right. The tradition just did not get updated for a 0.46% world. One quick note before I keep going. This is general information, not advice for your exact situation. Every household has its own tax picture and its own timeline. Do your homework. Here is what I need you to walk away with tonight. The mistake was never yours. The mistake was believing that the people who benefit from your caution were ever going to sit you down and run these numbers for you. They were not. Not because they are evil. They are not evil. Most of them are decent people doing their jobs. They just work for a machine whose entire margin depends on you not running the arithmetic yourself. Your ignorance is not their bug. Your ignorance is their business model. You honored your parents by following the rules they gave you. That was not a failure. That was love. That was respect. And now, tonight, you get to honor them one step further by keeping the parts of the rulebook that are eternal. The Masa, the modesty, the diversification the Gemara wrote 2,000 years before the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation existed, and adding back the 3 pages the 21st century tore out. The compound interest page, the fee page, the inflation page. You are not behind. You are not foolish. You are not failing at adulthood. You were kept in the dark on purpose, and tonight the light is on. And once the light is on in a room, it does not go back off. So tell me, in the comments, and I do read them, which of those 3 missing pages was yours? The emergency fund page you told yourself you did not need because you live simply? The fee page you never read because the advisor was a nice guy? Or the cash in the bank page, the one your mother or your father made you promise you would never move? Just write the number, 1, 2, or 3. And if it was all 3, write all 3. No shame in it. Half the comments on this video are going to say all 3. Next time on this channel, we are running a different number, and this one is going to sting a different generation. The number the Internal Revenue Service quietly runs the day you inherit a retirement account from a parent. There is a rule called the 10-year rule, and it changed everything for Jewish families passing on traditional individual retirement accounts and their workplace accounts to their kids. Most people do not know it exists until the letter arrives. I am going to show you the exact bracket math on a $400,000 inherited account, and the one move that flips almost 30% of it back onto your side of the table. Until then, do me a favor, open your last bank statement tonight. Find the interest line. Read that number out loud. If it starts with a 0 point anything, you already know what to do. The light is on, keep it on.